Hello. Welcome back to another episode. I'm going to have to be careful here because this audio is a subject that for me, once you wind me up, I'm going for a long time. So this might be a longer than 10-minute video. We'll have to see how it goes. This video is about audio setup and a lesson I've learned over the years. It's the law of diminishing returns, and I'll explain exactly what I mean by that as we go along. So this video might be useful to you, certainly if you're into pro audio or prosumer audio, if you do vlogs, video logs, if you do screencast training like I do, then you're probably of interest, have interest in this. If you're not into pro audio, you're still maybe working from home. So you're on Zoom video chats, you're on Teams video chats all the time. For those people, let me start off with some recommendations. If you're not going to be doing podcasting and dedicated broadcasting type stuff, instead you're just a work from home person and you're on a lot of video calls, then I would suggest that you just go for the best USB headset you can get. Now, you can get a decent one for under $50, like Microsoft Live Chat is good. What I would recommend you do, though, is instead of just buying one from Amazon, at least go to some Best Buys or some stores that are near you so that actually trying it on might be a problem because of hygiene and all that. See, the thing I'm trying to get to is that comfort's pretty important. And the Microsoft Live Chats are fine and they're very almost indestructible. They're very well built, but they can be kind of pinchy if you're wearing them for long periods of time. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're not doing more professional audio, a good workman-like USB headset that you can throw in a bag and it can take a beating. You're not caring about it sounding fantastic. You just want it passable. The catch there is to find one that actually is comfortable, and it's tough to do that without trying them on, and that can be problematic for hygienic reasons. So maybe if you've got colleagues who are willing to trust you to let you wear it, that might be something to consider. Now, how about if you want to go further than that? For example, what I do at Pluralsight, I'm teaching by recording my computer screen and doing a voiceover. So I've gone there and back over the last years and years and years. And what I mean by law of diminishing returns is that it can be too easy to slip down the rabbit hole of how to optimize your audio and getting all geeky about your signal chain from your voice into your microphone. Your microphone, are you going to go into a channel strip where you're going to be twiddling some knobs there on the front end of your audio signal? You're going to have a interface. Chances are, if you're using a professional microphone, you're not using a USB, you're using a round barrel connector called XLR. So you're going to need a method to convert the XLR input into USB output to go into your computer if you're going to do that, which I do. I do that. So what I found is way back when I started doing contract work for Pluralsight in 2014, they recommended the Rode Podcaster, which is a relatively simple USB condenser mic. It's under $100. And that's what they recommended to authors as a good balance between performance and price. And I had no signal chain to speak of. I just USB'd directly into my computer. And you know something? I'm telling you the truth. The best audio reviews I've gotten after all these years still point back to those first years using a relatively inexpensive USB microphone. Go figure. And that's especially laughable when you think of the gear that I have now. I have the Neumann TM102, I believe. I've got the Chaotica Eyeball. I've got a bunch of channel strips. A commenter asked me to do a studio tour in my office. I'll definitely do that someday. But I've got a DBX 286 channel strip, which I'm plugged into but not using. I'm bypassing it. My audio interface is a Focusrite. It's a rack-mounted. It's got way too many channels, but I wanted to condense my audio gear into a rack form factor, and a lot of audio interfaces are odd sized. So I went for this Focusrite Scarlett because it fits in a rack and because Focusrite Scarlett's pretty well regarded among my colleagues. And it's been fine. I've got a Furman power conditioner in my rack as an attempt to make sure that my power, the mains power, is as clean as and predictable as possible. So I've got a silent PC. The PC that I'm using was built specifically for silence. So I definitely put in a lot of time, money, and effort in my signal chain. But my warning is, and I credit my friend and Pluralsight colleague Simon Allardyce with this advice, there's a law of diminishing returns where you'll find that as you start to invest in your signal chain, you'll find your audio will probably improve, but then you'll reach an apex point. And if you keep pushing, your quality is going to go down. And if you're like me, you're going to be so caught up in the moment, you may not even hear that you're frying your audio. And I wound up submitting a course that had just crispy audio, and it was rejected. And because I had put the processing on the front end, I was using my 286 channel strip. You're tattooing that input. So what I prefer to do nowadays is to have my signal, my original audio signal, be as dry as possible. And actually, I don't even crank up the gain all that much. It's relatively, I'm looking at the monitor on my screen, the audio, and it's just going up a little bit. I'm not bringing it up to -6 or anything like that. I don't want to mess with my source. The goal for me of a pristine audio source is silence above all else, and the actual audio being as dry as possible. When I say dry, I mean unprocessed. I want no humming, background noise, and I want just my voice to come through in that initial audio file. Okay, so to complete my thought about law of diminishing returns, that's what I would warn you against, going overboard. And if you're a developer or an IT pro, chances are you're a tinkerer like I am, and you're a maker, and you're an optimizer, and you're a tuner, and it's fun for a while, but I'm warning you, eventually your ears get kind of numb to hearing all these little changes, and you may trick yourself into thinking that it's good audio and it's crap. And again, I'm going to repeat it again because I think it bears repeating. My problem with putting signal processing on the front end in the channel strip, it's nice because it's in hardware, and it's nice because supposedly my voice that I'm hearing come back to me in my cans or my headphones is already radio quality. But then once I'm in post-production, what can you really do? It's already been manipulated, the audio has. Whereas now when I come in with a low gain, clear, silent, I can do whatever I want in post. And software plugins are really powerful nowadays. Again, it's probably worth another video. But what I do with my video or my audio, including what I do here for my YouTube, is that I'll export the WAV file, bring it into, I use Adobe Audition, and I also purchase Isotope plugins, Izotope. That's been a worthwhile investment, and learning some stuff about Adobe Audition has been worth it. That's not a law of diminishing returns, but I've been burned by putting too many software effects in my Adobe Audition rack. So I'm very judiciously worked out what I've got in there. And I think it's working pretty well. For a while, even there in post-production, I was too heavy with the what's called the noise gate, because I have a personal bugaboo about breathing noises. I don't like my breathing noises showing up in my training or anything like that. And I had the gate way too untuned, so it was cutting off the ends of my words. So if you listen to some, unfortunately, little secret here, if you listen to some of my earlier Pluralsight training, you can hear words getting cut off. And that's an artifact of me being too aggressive in post-production with noise gating. But I think I've dialed it in pretty well now. And that was time well spent. And it's one of those things where I'm pretty happy with the way my audio is now, so I'm not going to horse around with it unless another problem comes up. Again, the law of diminishing returns. It's a real deal. It's a real phenomenon that Simon taught me about. It's certainly true for me, and I've discussed this with other technical trainers who do online training, and they contend a similar story. So if I were to wrap all this up into a bow, let me come back and sum it all up. If you're not doing pro audio in podcasting and training, get a comfortable USB headset that is, above all else, reliable, just plug and play, is comfortable on your head, and you can just throw in a bag and not worry about it breaking. Some of those headsets are way too spindly, like the Plantronics ones and Jabra. They're really spindly and fragile. I can't stand that. What I like about the Microsoft Live Chat is that I can throw it against the wall and it'll still continue to work. In summary, if you're into the more pro audio, yeah, by all means, get into it. I think you should be using an XLR microphone. You should have a decent audio interface. I would advise to be careful about front-end processing. Look again at post-production using, Audacity is perfectly fine. That's a free tool. The Isotope plugins for me work really good. And Isotope runs some really dramatic sales, particularly Isotope takes care of their existing customers. You'll find that upgrade bundles are very competitively priced. So I normally wind up going to subsequent versions of their RX editor suite because of that. All right. Well, if you like this subject matter, please let me know. Let me know if there's anything more in particular that I can do for you. Because like I said, this is a wind me up and let me go thing. I can geek out on audio and practicing the craft all the time. So with that, see ya. Thank you.